machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow Leicester Fan TV on all socials.
Good morning all, I hope you're well, I hope you're good. We've got a very special show today. We've got another ex-player on with us, none other than David Connolly, that played with us for 20 years ago now. David, wasn't it? How are you, pal? You good?
I'm very well, yeah, you?
I'm fine, thank you. We're going to have a bit of a chat about your career at Leicester. It wasn't the longest, but I thought it was pretty good actually, because you came for 500,000 from West Ham. Mickey Adams signed you. What actually drew you to Leicester at the time? Was it because they had a new stadium, or Mickey Adams, or the team?
Well, I think I just lost the player final with West Ham to Crystal Palace, and I was sort of told, or we heard as a team, that a lot of the forwards were sort of available. When I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's time I sort of leave. And I know Leicester just got relegated. Obviously, a fantastic club. Had been brilliant in the Premier League for a number of seasons. We all know the history or whatever. I was told about the interest and with Mickey Adams, and there was a couple of others, a couple of other options. I think Sunderland as well at the time, a couple of others. But I thought, Leicester, the quality they have in the squad, newly relegated, going to be fighting to get back, promotion or whatever. So, yeah, I thought, yeah, that sounds like a great move, and it proved tough, a lot harder than to get right, and it wasn't for a want of trying from anyone's perspective, but it was tough. A lot of new players, a lot of maybe older players, aging players.
Yeah. You were one of the youngest ones there, really, weren't you?
Yeah, I think I might have been near enough. I don't know, mid-20s, a bit more maybe, but. Yeah, there was a lot of sort of surgery done on the squad, like as often happens, and then you try and get loads of players in, and then from all those players that come in, you're trying to get a style of play, relationships, how things are going. There was a lot of players that came from up north, and there was a lot of players that came from down south, and it was a bit of a sort of transient place because of its geography, and there was nothing really put on about living locally. So I think in the end it was just hard. All great lads, teammates and stuff, but it didn't click, and we weren't good enough. And certainly in that first season, it took me a long time to, I think, get off the mark. And then when I did, I scored I think it was really good goal against QPR on a top corner from a long way out, whatever, and then I got sent off. And actually, I shouldn't have been sent off. I think the player made a real meal of contact, and it just seemed like it wasn't gonna happen. And I felt bad for Mickey, because Mickey obviously really wanted it to go well, and it just wasn't. So it was tough, and it improved a bit to the latter. I think my goals in games and stuff improved a lot. Not due any coincidence, maybe after Mickey left or whatever, maybe I just got my groove a little bit. And I started the next season very well. I think I was top scorer in the Championship the next season before leaving for Wigan. So, although it was only early summer window. So, yeah, bittersweet kind of, because it was hard. It was a lot of managerial changes, and like I said, it wasn't for a want of trying. I don't think I could have done any more. It just wouldn't click.
Yeah, when you got brought in, you came in to replace, I think, a similar kind of player as you, Paul Dickoff. You're both pests kind of players, weren't you? Paul Dickoff was, I think, one of the original pests, and you came to try and, in a nice way, I mean pest, sorry, I don't mean that in a nice way. You always harry in and harassing the defenders. And I think you were trying to replace him. And it, like you say, it took you 10 games before you scored. Like you say, you just said about the QPR game and the red card. So you had the high and the low in one game. Were you feeling the pressure a bit when it was like the 8th game you hadn't scored, the 9th game you hadn't scored?
I haven't quite, looked back on the like individual games and chances, but like I really took a lot of I took the game like quite seriously in terms of I tried very, very hard. I lived very well, prepared properly, trained, did extra training. Really, I took the being a footballer quite. I gave it the sort of the care that it deserved to try and perform at that level for a club like Leicester. But for some reason, though it was chances. I don't know if it was. I never blame anyone else. I just look at myself and go, it just didn't quite happen for me. And I don't know why in that first period. And try as you might, it just wasn't going in. So and obviously you just want to do well, right? Because that's your job, and you're brought in to do well, and you're a striker, and that's what it's your responsibility. So. Yeah, if I was, for example, if I look back now and I go, well, do you know what? I was this, I was that, I was out, I was not taking care of myself. But I was sort of took the game very, very seriously and really tried to do my very, very best. So now I just it just annoys me professionally that it might happen for me, but I kind of I couldn't put my finger on why, because I think I ended pretty well at West Ham. The season before that, I got like 24 goals in 28 games in the Championship. There was no reason for me. I was like the best goals per game 18 months ago in the whole country. I think I got 24 and 28. So I should have been like absolutely banging them in. I did at the start of the second season, but I don't know why it just didn't happen in that first season at Leicester.
Sometimes it's all about confidence, isn't it? And when you made your debut, was it strange making your debut against a team that you'd literally just left 2 months ago?
Yeah.
You played the playoff final in the bank holiday in May, I think it was, and then you played against West Ham the first weekend in August. So it must have been strange, because a lot of the players would have been the same. And was the manager the same as well for West Ham? I can't remember.
Yeah. It's just sod's law. You're like, and then I think we had sort of Leicester fans singing, "We've got Dave Connolly," and then you had West Ham. When I think I had a shot a goal, it went wide. West Ham fans singing, "You've got Dave Connolly." It was, I remember, it's good. You can laugh at it now, but at the time, you obviously really wanted to do well, and it was just, that was. I think West Ham that season, they might have got less points, less goals, wherever it was, but they went up, I think, and it's just the way it goes, yeah.
You also mentioned that Mickey Adams got the sack part way through the season, and Craig Levein came in. What was it like? I mean, I don't know professional football. I mean, I've never been anywhere near being professional. What's it like when the manager that signed you gets the sack and the new manager comes in? How does that affect you mentally and your all-round game? Does that new manager try and change your style, or did Craig Levein just carry on going? You just keep doing what you do, David?
I think certainly as a player, you do feel like responsible that because obviously you're brought in to do a job, and if you'd have done it a bit better, you would have. I think Ruben Amorim's been talking about this lately at Man United. There's people losing their jobs off the pitch because on the pitch you're not delivering. So I think if you've got a conscience, which I did, you'd always think, if I'd have banged the goals in, obviously it might have been different at the start, and maybe as a whole team. But if that had happened, if we'd have been a bit better. And obviously Craig coming in, it's never nice for a manager to leave halfway through, and I think it's always difficult. And Craig found it difficult, and I liked his staff, I liked him, but it was difficult. It's a big club, big expectations, and maybe the squad and I don't know, players that were there, players that came in, just the level maybe wasn't quite what it needed to be.
I was thinking that he brought a lot down north of the border, didn't he, with him, Alan Maybury, Martin de Vries. He brought quite a few down with him. And I know before your time, when I first started watching Leicester, we used to have a manager called Jock Wallace. I can't remember if you remember him. And we used to be called Leicester Thistle because he brought a lot of Scottish down. And it was brilliant, but this time it didn't quite work for him when he brought the Scottish lads down.
And I mean that, to be honest, like I wouldn't say benefited from that, but I've worked with a lot of managers who have re-signed me. So I've benefited from, a manager comes down a bit like Craig, and he brings in players he knows or the market he knows. Like Alan Pardew, I played for him at West Ham. He signed me at Southampton. I played with Roy Keane. He then signed me at Sunderland. Like the list is endless in that regard. So I think, yeah, I could understand what Craig did, but it was just a tough season.
Yeah, coming on to the next season. I mean, you only had a year with us. I mean, your first game was on the 7th of August of 04, and your last game against Hull was on the 29th of August 05. 2 weeks before, you scored a hat-trick against Stoke. Did you actually think that was going to be your last momentous moment with Leicester, scoring that hat-trick? Or was it rumblings that you might go, or was it like all of a sudden, it just happened, right, you've got to go, or we've got to sell you?
It wasn't. I'll give you an example, because you might talk to loads of players, and everyone's different. And I never had an agent.
Oh, right.
So in my whole football career, I never had an agent. I had a solicitor who, if you were buying a house, he'd do the conveyancing. If you were, whatever was going on, you would use him. And I'd probably spoke to him every every week for when I was 18 till he passed away a couple of years ago. And he was fabulous, man, Michael Kennedy. But I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anyone ever touting me. I never asked anyone to go and get me any deal. I never sought an agent to get me boot deal, contract, a move, nothing like that. That just wasn't me. And lots of players would have that. They might need someone to go and find them a house, find them a kid's school, all those things that you. Whereas I was self-reliant from a young age. I didn't want anyone that if I could do it myself, I do it myself. And if I just needed someone to do a contract, I do a contract, and that was it. So maybe I don't know if that's an anomaly or not, but he represented a few footballers. Lots of the Irish players. So, you gravitate towards that. So, yeah, if a move came about, it wasn't from me trying to get a move or anything like that. It was just, I think Wigan sold a player, and they just got promoted, and they need a striker. And okay, so I hear about it, and bang, it happens. And I scored my Premier League debut, which was just brilliant. But he did at Wigan. They did have a few other, like Omri Kamara, who was very, very quick, and I knew Paul Jewell liked him, etc. So I was going there knowing that I was part of 3 or 4 forwards, and like Jason Roberts and Omri Kamara were probably the favourite two. But it was to get to the Premier League, and scoring on my debut was great. But yeah, it wasn't a move that I sought, if that makes sense, from Leicester.
I bet the draw of, even though the Premiership had only been about 10 years old and probably still in his infancy a little bit, the Premiership after 10 years wasn't as good as what it is now, but just going up that one step to play in the Premiership and try it. I mean, because you would have been 27, 28 when you moved when you went to the Premiership. Just to give you that try, at least you've tried it to find out. And I bet you thought when you scored on your debut for Wigan, I mean, you actually made us a bit of money as well, because it was 2 million you went for Wigan, so you made us a few quid. You made us 1.5 million quid, so we must thank you for that. That's one thing. But it must have been like you say, a dream come true, going to Wigan, scoring on your debut, and then going on from there.
Yeah, I mean, look, they had a really good season. At one point in the top, 2 or 4 for a long period, finishing top 10. But we reached a League Cup final and scored the winner against Newcastle. I think the last 16 or something. I played every round and pulled my hamstring in the semi-final. Didn't play in the final. And you have these moments in your career. And I was eventually sort of like not first choice or anything, and we had a really good season. So yeah, good players, and Paul Jewell was a good manager, and he knew what it took. So, but yeah, I was appreciative of that move, because I think if you get a move, how do you get a move to the Premier League? A lot of players would either have to get promoted with their club. They would have to get promoted, and then once they're promoted, then they go bang, you're part of that team that's established, and then you go up, and or you get a move, and it is one of those sorts of or two ways. And normally, if you're bobbing around the Championship, it would be that if you get promoted, you'd have to get promoted with your team to play in the Premier League. So, no, it was good. And as you say, like Leicester did well out of it. So it was nothing like that, and everyone shook hands and off we went. So but definitely not. Wasn't my style to sort of force.
I was quite surprised actually, because I was watching it on Sky Sports, and I think it was deadline day. I can't remember. It was near the end of the window anyway, wasn't it? But I can't. And it said Connolly gone to Wigan, and it was just like, wow, that's a shock. I didn't expect that one at all. It just literally came out of the blue for the fans. I mean, you had a pretty decent record. I can understand why you had a 1 in 3 goal scoring record for Leicester, 17 in 54 games, which is 1 in 3, which is not bad for a striker. And even back then, nowadays, it's fantastic. But back then, it's a pretty decent record, 1 in 3. Or you're pulling a little face there. Did you think it was going to be a bit more?
Well, I just think you got to be. I feel like I obviously could have got more goals and been better. Maybe just you got to be like the right team, right place, right time. I loved being a goal scorer and stuff, but I try to sort of have other bits to my game, and being involved in the game and sort of linking the play and assisting and all that. So I'm working hard for the team. Don't get me wrong, you were there to score goals, absolutely, but I wanted to be like a good team player. Your teammates appreciate you as well. So the goals, I think I certainly could have got more if you'd have scratched the first 6 months at Leicester. After that, the numbers are probably pretty good. And probably it's hard to beat yourself up about it didn't go well in the first period at Leicester, because it's so difficult to throw everyone together and get and also, like I say, there was maybe the mix wasn't right. Maybe it was transient, everyone coming from everywhere, finished training, everyone goes home, or aging squad, wherever it may be. It was just, it's hard to get the mix right. And look, you'll know, Leicester fan, when you get it right, obviously, wow, look what can happen. But it takes a lot of things to make that happen.
I wish it was right at the minute, to be honest. Anyway, let's talk about the game tomorrow, because you've had a bit of a dalliance with West Ham and with Leicester as well. Leicester are up the creek without a paddle at the minute, to be honest. West Ham are 13 points clear of the relegation zone. You would say they're nearly clear. They'll be about safe now. Graham Potter came in, they've won a few games. Ruben Nistelrooy has come in. It hasn't worked for him. He's lost 10 out of his 15 games he's beat while he's been here in all competitions. The new manager bounce hasn't really worked for him like it has for Graham Potter. What do you think has gone wrong with Leicester, and what do you think has gone right with West Ham?
Well, I mean, obviously, when you asked me to come on to come on, it's sort of bad timing in a way, because obviously things aren't going well on the pitch. So what you don't want is another voice, another ex-player, chipping away at the club, because it's not really my style to do that. And also, as fans, you would know, because you watch. Leicester week in, week out, exactly maybe where it's gone right and where it's gone wrong. But what I can sort of give a view on is for example, I did my pro license with Craig Shakespeare, and Craig was just incredible man. Very sadly, no longer here. But I remember when Craig, funny enough, we buddied up on a lot of tasks on the pro license. Like we'd have Zoom calls together, because you often had to buddy up with a sort of another person. And, and I think it was the year you won the league, so it was 2016. And hearing what sort of the team was, how it was successful, all that sort of stuff, right? It takes a lot to get it right. And when things are going well, no one was shouting from the rooftops. You didn't hear sort of, I know John Rudkin's getting a tough time at the minute. Yeah, and John was there when I was there. So John was academy manager. So, and Leicester had a very, I wouldn't say, what's the right word? I wouldn't say old school, but it was a very small, like knit staff. Everyone knew each other. Belver Drive, the training ground. It was all, it'd been that way for a long time. Obviously, things change, right? And you expand, you get more staff, you get a new training ground. You might lose a little bit of that intimacy, because now you're suddenly like gone, what I'm getting is, it takes a lot to be a successful club.
Yeah.
And when things are going well, you didn't hear too much shooting from the from the rooftops. Everyone's very professional and everything. So when now things aren't going well, so it's very difficult to then critique it, because I'm not quite in it. When I was maybe, playing at Leicester, doing a pro license, hearing about stuff, Craig tell me, you're like, oh wow, I can see it. Now I don't know. I'm just looking from the outside, and I don't see Leicester enough. But I thought the managerial point was a risk. It was a very, very big risk, and I don't think Ruud van Nistelrooy has maybe enough of a coaching pedigree to warrant that job. I think it's a huge task, and normally, like maybe Nigel Pearson and Craig as a duo, I don't see Ruud with a duo. I don't see a coaching staff. So I think I'm able to offer that view because I think it's an easy observation from the outside. And I think that was a gamble from John Rudkin, and it hasn't worked out. And whether that was the right gamble to make, because there's nothing to say that Ruud would be the right man in the Championship, for example. If and when that comes. So, when Leicester did great in the Championship with Maresca, everything was great. I think Leicester still lost 11 games and Ipswich lost like 6. So, there's nothing to say that wouldn't happen in the Premier League either. So Leicester have lost a lot of games, and would Ruud be the right man to get them back up? I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. It's hard to pinpoint exactly, apart from I think there was a lot of managers who were not in a job at that time. Graham Potter wasn't in a job. David Moyes wasn't in a job. And, you look at those, and no matter what you say, they have got a lot of experience in the Premier League. They've got a proven staff, a very known staff that know the division, know what it takes, and Ruud bringing in Brian Barry Murphy and Andy King is wonderful, but he hasn't worked with them before, and that to me is just a worrying sign. So I think I can comment on that because it's an easy spot, and I know a little bit about Dutch football because I played in Holland, so I try to keep abreast of it. I know what Ruud's done over there, and it just. It's such a big risk, and I think the 2 caretaker games against Leicester for Man U, I know some people might get starstruck with a big name, but obviously he's not playing on the pitch, and that's the difference. It's tough. So I guess now that game, West Ham game, is another game that I imagine. I know Wolves lost the other night, but I imagine it might be Southampton are probably down, right? So it's 2 from 3. 2 from 3, and from those 2 from 3, I think Wolves have got some real match winners. So it's going to be very, 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 very difficult. And obviously, your attention at some point will turn. Well, is it too late to change manager? And are you looking at next season? And that might be it. I mean, I saw a few things the other night. Like, indeed, he's so important for the team, and he was so frustrated the other night. Like, he ended up against Brentford, sort of body language and throwing the arms in the air, and just think, I love Vardy. Vardy is like one of my all-time favourite strikers and stuff, but maybe there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do.
A lot of Leicester fans have will agree with you about the Ruud van Nistelrooy that they were excited, but they were also worried about it when he signed. We'd have rather gone with a Premiership manager with experience of a relegation battle. I think that was the same with. A bit similar to Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers has had success wherever he went, and he never really faced any kind of relegation battle. And I think you needed that manager, that, like you said, the Graham Potter, the David Moyes that has been there, done it, even to an extent, Sean Dyche. I mean, look at Sean Dyche, what kind of side he had at Burnley, and he kept them up for 6 or 7 seasons. They weren't the best of sides, but they were kept up by a manager that knew how, and I think that's the reason. And I honestly think this is very controversial. And a lot of Leicester fans will totally disagree with me that Steve Cooper would have probably been able to keep us up.
Maybe. I mean, it's tough. I look at say Leicester now, and I think, well, if you're going to play a little bit direct, if indeed he's not in the team, who do you hit? Because I know Bobby Decordova-Reeks. I worked with him at Bristol City. He's small. El Kanou's small. Ayu's small. Vardy, he doesn't want to be flicking on a ball. He wants someone to do it for him. And then that means, well, are you playing out from the back? Well, yeah. And at times I've seen Leicester this season do it very, very well under Ruud. I've seen them play out like really, really well, but it's tough to do. And you know, when confidence is low, and you know, if you lose possession, etc., and then building through the thirds, it can be a bit. It can be hard to get support to Vardy. So I don't know. Anyway, it's difficult. I think it's going to be very, very difficult, because I think if it's a Dyche or someone like that, they'd be a bit. They might be a bit more direct. They might be better with their set pieces and stuff. But you know, Leicester are quite small, and they're lacking in a little bit of that sort of physicality up front. Someone to take the knocks for a Vardy or whatever. But I don't know.
I mean, when at the start of this, when he first came in, the fixture list wasn't brilliant, but like I keep saying, that we have to play everyone twice. So it doesn't matter how the fixtures come, we still have to play. But we played Liverpool's, we played Man City, we played Aston Villa, three out of 4 games over Christmas, and we could take positives out of it. But then it carried on going, and we had like 45 minutes of decent football and not decent football in us, and there were still positives to take out. But how far can you go with taking positives out of the game without getting a positive result when you're in a bad situation?
I know it's difficult. I mean, I think it was the Everton game where every long ball, it seemed like they won a flick on, and then it seemed like they got in behind like pretty easily, and then you got the goalkeeper situation where I'm sure, you know, in hindsight, you look at everything that's gone wrong, maybe with goalkeepers, and you think, well, if they'd have managed to just keep Kasper Schmeichel, would things been a bit different? But then apparently it was money and length of contract, but ultimately it might have been better giving him what he wanted, because you know, you've gone sort of round the houses. So I don't know. I thought the other night, Leicester really lost their discipline as well. I thought Koulibaly could have easily been sent off, because he led with his elbow against Norgard, and I thought Connolly was so rash. Every 2 minutes, he seemed to want to be fouling Johan Visser. So there's a real frustration with the players there, and obviously, you know, you just got to be careful they just don't completely lose it. And otherwise, I know there's some talented kids coming through. At some point, you can't throw the towel in, but at some point, you got to look and go, right, what else can we do with that? Because I thought, you know, if you see that every game at home, after 10, 15, 20 minutes, you know, the fans feel they're beaten, the opposition know the home team's beaten, and it's very, very difficult. And this is not to say as well that those promoted teams nowadays will go always straight back down. I think in the past, we have seen teams like Forest, Fulham or whatever buck that trend. But you have got to have know how you're going to play and the reasons why you're playing, and the signings, get everything right. It's such a fine balance, you know. It can be done. And what you don't want is everyone to think, oh, now all you do is come up and straight back down. Well, if it's done right, obviously you can stay up, you can do well, as Leicester know from the past. So, but it's difficult at the minute, and I don't want to be one of those players now coming on when things are going badly, and it's you're kicking them while it's down. It's a shame, and hopefully they can, you know, turn it around next season and give it a real good go, because it wouldn't be wrong of me to say I think Leicester are probably going to go down. I think that's what it looks like. So now it's like, right, how's it going to end the season to go? Give it a good chance.
You've got to try and end on a high, so you get the confidence going into next season and build on that. That's why I wouldn't mind seeing a couple of the youth players, Jeremy Monga, not Luke Evans, he's the actor, Jake Evans, playing. Although Jake Evans has just took a bit of a knock, he scored 2 hat-tricks in the last 3 games for the under-21s, so he's doing pretty well. Just to come on, just to see whether they're good enough in the Premiership. Just the exuberance of youth. They don't know nothing. They just can come in, play for the shirt, and just go for it. And it the crowd up. You need a bit of a tackle. I mean, you're not allowed to tackle anymore, really, are you? Like you used to be able to. You need something like a tackle, or someone that does a step over, or does a bit of a trick and get the crowd behind you. And that's what we're lacking at the minute. We're lacking something. We're just lacking something that gets the crowd behind the team. Although you need players the same to do something, get the fans behind. So it's a bit of a catch-22, really, isn't it?
It is, because look, success from the past will tell you. Obviously, you get great recruitment, great signings, you know, and you get the mix right. Everything can go well. When things do go well, when you have success, then comes better contracts, more money, and you know, for the players, and everything improves. New training ground, new this, new that, and then obviously it can turn, and that seems to be, you know, how it's gone with Leicester now. So big wages, sort of Champions League type salary wages for a number of years, because it was that level and you're trying to compete at that level. And now the market's different. So now you need someone really canny. Can you get that canny recruitment back? Can you get those that have got a bit of hunger and desire? You know, it's a different twice a week in the Championship, isn't it? It's completely different, as you would have known from only a couple of seasons away. The style of play, how you're going to do it, you know, all that sort of stuff. So it's a challenging job, but it's one that, like, obviously you can relish. It's just been, I guess, a real season to forget, and the change has not had any impact whatsoever.
No,
managerial change.
It hasn't. David, it's been much appreciated. You've been away from the game for a while. What are you actually up to nowadays? Because people would have forgot that you were an ex-player. I don't know what year you finished. It would have been, I don't know, 15 years ago. I would have thought 10 years ago maybe. What are you actually up to nowadays?
Well, I stopped. I think I was 38 when I retired. So that was, I think, 2015 or something like that. So then I went into, I'd already done all my, I was just finishing my coaching badge, as I said, with Craig, the late Craig Shakespeare. So I then went into coaching, took Millwall's youth team. Then I worked at Bristol City and some other clubs, and do a bit of media. And I've got other bits and pieces like that is my sort of day-to-day stuff that I picked up when I was playing. So yeah, that keeps me busy, 4 kids and stuff. And you know, I do a little bit for, like, I'm doing a game on Friday for TalkSport International. I do some other little bits of media, but yeah, so that's what I thought I might go into coaching full time and things, and I did dip my toe in it, but probably just hopped off the train without staying on. And yeah, so, but now obviously I'm a big football fan. So you know, whether I care about the game, you know, I care about grassroots. I care about, you know, because I coached in grassroots, I had kids in grassroots. I've got friends, you know, in grassroots. I've got friends in academies. I've got, you know, people at all levels of the game. And yeah, I care about the game. So yeah, I'm not one of these ones that I think played the game, took the money out of the game, and then they don't care about it. I do. Football's always, I would say, been the big love of like me. I love the game, so I think it's yeah. I still watch football, love football. You know, I wouldn't really ever get sick of football. And yeah, so that's me.
Good. Like I say, David, much appreciated taking your time out of the day to sit down and waffle on to me that likes a good old waffle about Leicester and football. David, like I say, once again, thanks a lot, pal, and we'll see you again soon, mate.
No problem. Yeah.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, David. Thank you. Cheers. There we go. David Connolly, ex-Fox, doing a little bit of media, doing a little bit of punditry, doing a little bit of football coaching. He does the works. Hope you've enjoyed it. We shall see you again soon. Come on, you Foxes.
Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms.
Want to watch more content like this? Hit the like button. Give us your views. Hit subscribe to Leicester Fan TV and make sure to follow Leicester Fan TV on all socials.